Hi guys, I'm Doritos, and today I'm going to be showing you guys some fantastic 3-5-2 custom tactics to help you create more chances in your games. The 3-5-2 definitely hasn't been one of the more popular formations this year. The most common ones have been like the 4-3-2-1, the 3-4-2-1 as well has been more popular recently. The 3-5-2 is definitely still an extremely usable formation if set up correctly. The 3-5-2 custom tactics I'm going to show you today, their main place in your games is going to be when you're in that kind of stalemate, that game where you're struggling to score, or maybe even if early in the game you've fallen a goal or two behind, but you don't already want to resort to a constant press tactic so soon. These tactics are what step it up a notch in order for you to create more chances without going all the way to the other end of the spectrum and tiring your team out with a constant press tactic. These tactics really utilise a left mid and right mid getting into tons of space, and even if you play like a good player who covers those players, it then opens up the space in the middle. So you're kind of creating an overload in the sense that you've got 5 attackers and most people play with a 4-back, so you basically always get a spare man. But more noticeably than anything, it is those wide men that you are going to find in tons of space that enable you to create more chances and get back into those games where you have fallen behind. Getting into these custom tactics, we'll start with the defensive style. That's just going to be unbalanced. The width, I have gone as narrow as 35. I did start on 40, but I still felt like I was getting caught out through the middle a little bit, so I've made this really compact with 35. This is kind of becoming a reoccurring theme now in my tactics. It just seems to be a sweet spot. It may not suit you guys having it that narrow. Try it. If it feels too compact, by all means just spread this out a little bit. Probably try going up 5 at a time. Depth, 50. We don't want to be playing too much of a high line with a 3-back because you're very susceptible to getting countered if you play a high line. So 50 for the depth. Build up play balanced, chance creation, direct passing. It is the meta chance creation tactic. Width, again, we want to keep this relatively balanced. We don't want it too wide. We don't want it too narrow. 50 is literally a sweet spot. And players in the box, we're going to keep this on 5. Again, a lot of these tactics are quite straight down the middle. We're not going with anything too crazy here. Just a very nice balance. Seems to be what works best for the 3-5-2. Corners and free kicks, this is always personal preference. Some people will go down to 1, some people will go up to 3. Personally, I've got a tactical icon 2, so that's what I'm running with. I often find that if you put around 3.5 bars of power, you can generally always pick someone out of the back post. So if you want to give that a try on the 2 bars, by all means go for it. Jumping into the player instructions, we'll start with the strikers and work our way down. For the strikers, they are both going to be on stay central, getting behind. Quite a standard instruction at this point in the game. We've got 2 designated wide men in this formation, so we don't want our 2 strikers drifting out wide. We just want them to stay in the middle, push on the 2 centre backs. It's quite a reoccurring theme in this formation that you'll work the ball to your wide men, who will find the central attacking mid with a pass, who will then lay off the strikers who have already started to make a run in behind the defence. It's a really effective way to just get on goal with this formation. For the central attacking midfielder, we're going to have them on stay forward and get into the box for cross. I've noticed a lot of other people tend to put them on like comeback and defence, things like that. It's not necessary because you've got enough people back anyway. And with them on this instruction, they make really, really offensive runs. And because they're making offensive runs alongside the other 2 strikers, you've basically got 3 central committed attackers. What that does is it basically gets 2 centre-backs with 3 attackers to mark. They just get outnumbered. You end up with someone always in space. And again, it just helps you score more goals. Moving on into the right midfielder and the left midfielder, these are going to be on the same instructions. So they're both going to be on come back on defence and get into the box for cross. A lot of people do use getting behind. However, I have not found it necessary whatsoever in this formation. In fact, I find the getting behind instruction a bit of a hindrance because they tend to make runs too early. And it kind of doesn't allow you to do those 1-2 interplays with the DMs. So it's very nice to have the ball with the wide mid, drop it back to the DM, manually trigger the run, and then feed them in again. That just seems to work a lot better. With getting behind, you're just too deep into the opponent's half too soon. It doesn't enable you to have that quick interplay and get them in behind. Get into the box across, just so they're on the back post for when you are working the ball across the box. As for comeback on defence, we have this specifically so that we can operate as a 5-back on the defence. So on your left mid and your right mid, they're both going to be dropping back as left wing back and right wing backs when your opponent's on the attack, and that's just going to enable you to be a little bit more robust and have that bit more defensive support. For your centre defensive midfielders, again, these are both going to be on the same instructions. They're going to be on cut passing lanes, stay back while attacking, and cover centre. So we have them on cover centre to make sure the middle of the park is as compact and blocked off as possible. Your left mid and right mid will be dropping into those pockets on the wide spaces to cover those. The cut passing lanes is so that when you're not controlling one of the DMs, the one that you're not controlling, the AI will naturally kind of cut off those passing lanes for you. So it enables you to, it just takes a little bit of the stress of having to cut everything off manually. When you're controlling one, the AI will naturally cover any other passes. It just really helps breaking up the midfield play. And stay back is because we don't want too many numbers coming forward. We already have 5 designated attackers in this formation. These two are just about being the anchor in the midfield. They're about feeding in the wingers and always being there as a passing option if there isn't one going forward. As for your centre-backs, these are all just on stay back, which is the default. Same with the goalkeeper. If you want to go with the sweeper keeper, comes for crosses, that seems to be quite a popular thing a lot of people like to go for. So if that works for you, absolutely not opposed to that, but I personally just leave these unbalanced. Next, we'll talk about what kind of players you want in each position to get the most out of the formation. Starting with the strikers, realistically, it's just whatever the most meta you can get in is, really. There's nothing really too special about what you need here. I personally use Alan Shearer's FUT Birthday card and the new FUT Birthday Pushcast. They're both phenomenal finishers. They both make great AI runs in behind, which with the getting behind instruction, they're going to be doing a lot. So a good AI, but the better skill moves and weak foot, the better. Once you get the ball into those attackers that really are that last point in the attack, just having as much ability as possible in terms of the skill moves and weak foot is always going to help. For your central attacker midfielder, there is definitely some criteria I would stick to here. I would say at least 90 pace, so that with a chemistry style applied, they are pretty much max pace. I would avoid the likes of a De Bruyne, somebody who is slower. You want somebody that is just as quick as your strikers here because they are going to be making really offensive runs with the way we've got this set up. The next thing I would recommend on your attacking midfielder is genuinely aim for 5-star, 5-star. The only thing I would compromise on that is maybe the skill moves isn't as necessary if you don't use them as much, but definitely aim for the 5-star weak foot. I've used the likes of Kaka, Centurions, Mahrez. There was always moments where when they were on their weak foot, even though they are 4-star weak foot, they just let me down. A shot that I should have scored kind of hit the post. Since I've put Cruyff as my cam, this hasn't happened, just because he's got that full ability on both feet. I personally favour the 5-star skill moves as well, but if you're not a big skiller, just make sure you aim for the 5-star weak foot. Last but not least on your cam, just adding on to what I said about them making super offensive runs, you are going to find yourself on goal with the central attacking midfielder, so just make sure they've got really good shooting as well. So with a chem style applied, you're at least in the 90s on the finishing stats. For your left mid and your right mid, there is definitely some criteria to follow again on here. They are going to be on a comeback instruction, as I mentioned, so you do want them to have some defensive capabilities. Don't worry too much about the defensive stat being high. They just need to be able to do a bit. You know, like Fabio Vieira, who I've got in at the moment, he's only in the 70s on the stats. He's nothing special, but he does enough for when he does drop back. Cancelo obviously has a lot more defensive ability. Honestly, even if you had just somebody more physical in these positions, that would probably still be good enough. Definitely aim for at least 4-star skill moves on these guys and good dribbling stats, just so they are able to work the ball into the box once they are into that final third. The last thing I would mention as well, I know some of you may start like a right back or a left back in your build and move them into these positions. If you do that, just make sure they do still have the ability to shoot, at least in the 70s on their shooting stats at base, just because they will often, when you've worked the ball across the box, they will be the person that's free at the back post, so they will have chances on goal, and you don't want them letting you down when they are in those positions. For your centre defensive midfielders, you can't really go too far wrong here, so long as you've got two guys that are very fast and have defensive capabilities, you're pretty much good to go. You can go for like a big man, little man setup, but I mean, personally, I don't think it really matters. As long as they're fast and they can cut off those passing lanes, that's what you need in these positions. For your centre-backs, it's always going to be the same. You want them to be as fast as possible. You need them to be physical. If you can get them on the lengthy accelerate type, that is always a bonus because it enables you to outpace the likes of the Mbappes, the Jarzinhos over those longer distances when people are trying to feed them in behind. Because of the nature of this formation, you being a bit more exposed with it being a three-back, you want the best defensive AI as possible to just aid you in cutting those passing lanes, getting the most favourable tackling animations out of the players. I've got Maldini, Patrick Vieira and Desailly in my team, and these three for me are absolutely impeccable. I always tend to get them sort of automatically shield the ball after a tackle. They always are fast to transition to cut passing lanes. You really need three top tier players in these positions. If you skimp on this position, you're going to get exposed very quickly. As for your goalkeeper, as always, whoever works. I did kind of flirt with this sentiment at the start of the video, but I'll just sort of go over it a little bit more now just so it's clear. I would not start a game with these tactics. I would have this as the gear in between your constant press tactic and the tactic that you start a game with. It's a very nice in between. If you've gone a goal down early or you're just struggling to score, this is a nice extra gear to shift into where you're kind of conceding like, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more open at the back, but to have real nice openings in the offense to try and get back in a game or try and finally get the lead in a game where you are struggling to score. That's what these tactics are all about. It's that gear of giving it some more without going on constant press and just making your team absolutely shattered. I hope you enjoyed the video today, guys. More than anything, I just hope the custom tactics help. If you have any other tactics you would like me to check out, just let me know down below what formation it is. I'd be more than happy to check it out. Even if it's not a formation, even if it's just you want a more defensive orientated setup, you want a more attacking orientated setup, just let me know what it is. I'll see what I can do. If you did enjoy the video today, guys, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and turn your bell on. Take care, guys.